Hello, this is Joyce Crane. I'm the news director at WestfordCAT. I'm here today with one of our new board members, Wang, who is the treasurer of the board. And we're going to have a little chat. Jack, nice to see you.
Joyce, it's always great to see you, and happy to have this opportunity to sit down and talk.
So here we go. I'm going to ask you a few questions. They were suggested by a member of WestfordCAT, and his name is Paul Fassbender. I think we have some other contributions among these questions, but we're just going to take them one at a time and hear what you have to say. So here we go. Jack, what's the primary role and scope of the WestfordCAT board?
So in any nonprofit organization, well, really in any organization, the board is charged with setting the strategic direction and providing oversight, right? And then letting the staff do its job to achieve those strategic goals. Having said that, I strongly feel that in addition to those things, that the board really has the responsibility of being the head cheerleaders, quote unquote, if you will, really actively promoting the organization, WestfordCAT, in the community, identifying opportunities, whether that's for fundraising or outreach or programming ideas. I mean, we can't always be everywhere, but the idea is that we are actively promoting, if you will, WestfordCAT, right? And really trying to reiterate and communicate the value that CAT brings to Westford. So I feel very strongly about this. And now that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to stand in the center with the sign waving, maybe, but just in different forms, whether it's different organizations around town, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, schools, other companies, whatever, or just to the community members in general. It's, hey guys, do you really know, do you know what a great resource WestfordCAT is? And take a look at this and watch the programming. And I for one, I don't think I've watched so many governmental meetings, select board and school committee meetings as I have recently, especially with all the news involving the school committees. So I personally can attest to the fact that I can watch these meetings and not necessarily have to go in person. That sounds terrible, but it's true. But I do appreciate WestfordCAT being able to broadcast them so I can watch these things from the comfort of my own couch.
Yes, yeah, before the pandemic when we could be there physically.
Right.
Yeah. And now everything is on Zoom, so you can still watch it from your home.
Right, exactly. I appreciate that.
What kind of relationship do you want to have with the executive director, the staff, and the community? You can take each one of those separately if you want.
So with the executive director and the staff, it really should be a collaboration and support, right? So board members, as a general rule, should not be doing the work of the staff. Helping out, absolutely, right? And collaborating and providing ideas, sure. With the staff, however, funneled through the executive director, because you don't want to have, you don't want to get people confused about sort of who reports to who and things like that. So you do want to follow the chain of command. But the board members, and myself included, as a sort of along the lines of the whole cheerleader type of thing, it's to help the staff and the ED with, whether it's ideas or just acting as a sounding board or using our personal networks to try and bring ideas or services or whatever that could benefit the organization, right? So I know that part of being on a board really means that I'm now advocating for WestfordCAT to my entire professional network should WestfordCAT need something or need some help in an area, right, that I may not be able to help with. But I want to be able to say, hey, but I know someone, really well who can help the organization this way, right? So I think the board really has to be supportive. At the same time, right, does have the oversight responsibility to make sure that things are going well and that strategic objectives are being achieved, or at least the organization is moving directionally the right way. As far as the community, again, it goes back to the cheerleader thing. It's really being sort of advocating, promoting, listening to the community and what the needs are and what people want to see, and perhaps opportunities to collaborate with the community more than we have in the past. You know, again, I'm not necessarily sure what that is right now, but that would be part of the objective, is really to deepen the reach of WestfordCAT into the community, if you will.
Yes, I mean, it's easy from my point of view that everybody out there knows us, because you know, I have a lot of content and people sending me emails, but the reality probably is that there's fewer people right now that know about us in Westford than we would like, and it would be great to boost that number.
Right. And I'm not suggesting that people have to watch WestfordCAT, you know, round the clock, right? That's not it. Nobody watches a TV station round the clock, but the awareness for the local news, keep up to date on local issues, watch the meetings that matter to people, you know, to the community members. And perhaps community members have other ideas that we could implement, especially with that the virtual reality setup that we have, or more ways to engage with students. You know, whatever. I mean, the possibilities are almost endless, right? But we have to be out listening for those things and be aware of those things.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to move on to a question about diversity. What do you feel you bring to the board and to WestfordCAT in general, in terms of you know, a little bit of diversity, you know, a slight difference of, you know, of perception, whatever it might be?
I think that with the election of the board and any members who are on the board in the future, um, I think it's important to have a diverse board, not necessarily from the way that most people might think about it, right? Versus,
Right.
you know, typically race or ethnicity. It's really a most effective board is really a combination of different skill sets. And so for mine, it's really nonprofits or strategic level planning, as well as governance, as well as the financial aspect. I was a former banker, and I've worked with a number of nonprofits in the past, even post banking career. So, I think that having a diversity in skill set and points of view is really far more important. And so it's important for the board, even us now, to really understand what each of our strengths are. And I've talked about mine, and then identify where we may have gaps, and then add additional board members in the future to fill those gaps, right? The last thing you want is to have, let's say, 11 members on the board who all think alike. You have one president and 10 yes people. That gets you nowhere, right? That gets you that gets you a great organization when things are going well, but then when things aren't going well, it's a disaster, right? And we don't want that.
No, and I agree with you. So at anything, you know, diversity, professional diversity, experiential diversity, those are all very important. You know, much more important than you know, whether you're a diverse in terms of ethnicity or language or whatever at this point. Let's
I do
see.
want to say one other thing on that point, however, is that I think it's also important, excuse me, sometimes for people to be on the board who really have a helping mindset. And what I mean by that is, you know, people always want to help and stuff, but sometimes, you know, I can say to someone, hey, will you help me? And they will. And that's fine, and that's great. But I think it's also important for the board members to have a mindset of, let me always be thinking about ways to help even if I'm not necessarily asked specifically, right? For the betterment of the organization. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to impose all these crazy ideas on the organization. That's not it. But the point is, the phrase is adding a value. How can I always add value, right? I think it's important for board members now and in the future to have that mindset, like, okay, we're going to do it, we're going to do our job, but how can we make it even better?
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with that. That's why some people, a tragedy happens and some people are right in, they've jumped right into the whole, craziness of it and start raising money right away. And then, rather than um, people who hold back and they wait and see, I'd rather be one of those people that jump in.
Right, right.
Okay, so let's move on a little bit. And what's the primary activity that you will initially focus on as a director?
So for myself specifically, it would really be reviewing the financial situation at WestfordCAT. There are long-term challenges. There are also opportunities, and look at our revenue sources, where they're coming from, what the contracts say with Comcast and Verizon, but also trying to identify things like revenue or sponsorship opportunities, but also, excuse me, make sure that we are being as smart as possible with the resources that we have. Um, so for example, the money that we do have on hand, are we using that prudently? Are we, for the lack of a better term, investing? And I don't necessarily mean invest like take on a bunch of risk, but at the same time, the money that we do have in the bank account, you don't want it having it sit there earn nothing either, right?
Mm.
So there'll be things like keeping a little bit closer eye on those types of issues and doing a little bit more tracking of the budget and long-term forecasting, so that we can then identify where we might need to make up with fundraising, for example, right? But right now, I'm just starting on the board, so I don't necessarily have that information. So my initial task would really be to get a handle on status quo, like what is it today,
Mhm.
and then we'll figure out what it is going forward. But I need to know today first.
Yes, understood. Yeah, it's been a long haul for WestfordCAT this year financially. So we'll see what happens. So you are a wonderful networker. I'll disclose that we met each other a few years ago, and more because we were working on some personal projects and connecting. But so I know you that way, and that's why I know you're a good networker. So what contacts do you think you could bring to WestfordCAT?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it ties into everything I've been talking about. You know, there are, and I suppose I view my contacts, my network, in sort of different buckets, right? There's, from all the time that I spent working with nonprofits in the past, they, in essence, are a sounding board for me, because they have experience at other types of nonprofits and their successes and their challenges. And I think to a certain extent, it's good to share those stories so that we can learn from them. I can learn from them, we can learn from them. But then there's also other sort of business contacts, whether business locally here in town or outside of it, where we may be able to talk about either providing service to WestfordCAT, or helping service, or joint ventures or sponsorships or whatever. So, the honest answer right now is what contacts can I bring to WestfordCAT? It's a little hard for me to nail down, because I don't know sort of what I need yet. But at the same time, the answer is sort of everybody, but just maybe in different ways.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Hard question, good answer. So we just have a couple of more questions left. What do you think are the main challenges for community access television, the industry of community access over the next 5 years?
Well, for one, that, obviously on the finances of not just WestfordCAT, but any community access TV station in the country, as far as I know, long term, and this has really been kind of coming for a while, right? The internet and this whole current pandemic situation has really brought this kind of issue to the fore, where yes, people are watching TV, but they're not necessarily watching TV on TV, right? And I myself, I can tell you that I've been really busy with work. I haven't watched a lot of TV, but I have been keeping up my goofy YouTube videos, right?
Mhm.
Because you got to have some fun, but people use Hulu and Netflix and whatever other streaming services out there that, as of under the current regulatory framework, they don't necessarily provide revenue to us here at WestfordCAT. So that's a long-term trend. So we got to figure out sort of how financially how that's going to work. But also, as a result of that, how does WestfordCAT stay relevant in that world, right? So as people migrate away from watching TV on TV, how do we as WestfordCAT get our programs out there? I know we have the website where people can go to and stream online, and our YouTube channel, but is that it, or do we need to do more? I don't know the answer to that right now. But I think that there are significant challenges just in that fundamental business model, just because TV as an industry is changing so much. And this is also where working with industry associations and collaborating with some other CAT organizations in the area to try and figure this out, because it's not just us, right? I mean, it's really everybody.
Right. Absolutely, everybody. So this is, I think, a loaded question, but how will you help WestfordCAT prosper in this environment?
Aside from winning a lottery, right? You mean? Again, I think it's all of the above that I've talked about. There are so many facets to being on the board of WestfordCAT. There's so many facets to WestfordCAT that we have to get a better grasp on and really be better at, and help the organization be better at, so we can address these challenges, these larger picture challenges going forward. I think my strength personally is really that strategic level thinking, strategic level planning. Yes, my specific expertise is in finance, but finance only means something if it fits in the context of the broader picture. Like yes, I can help set the budget so that we show a surplus this year. Great, maybe that's the task. But if you get 1 year surplus and everybody and you don't address the underlying strategic level issues going forward, then does that really help?
Right.
No. So it's really working with the staff, working with my fellow board members. I mean, we have some really, really good board members with some great skills. So it's really working together as a group to try and address some of these issues long term. This is not going to be an easy lift. This is not a quick fix. This is much broader than that.
Yeah, it's systemic. Yeah. Well, Jack, I think we've gone through everything. I just wanted to ask you if you had anything else you wanted to say to residents before we go.
Here's what I would say to the citizens of Westford. As I mentioned, I don't think I've watched so much community access, local access TV as I have in the last several months because of, in particular, school committee, because that's an issue relevant to me, my family. But remember that WestfordCAT is a great resource, right? I'm not saying that everybody has to sit down and watch school committee meetings or select board meetings, but what goes on in those meetings, the local news that you cover, Joyce, the other things happening, that impacts us, right, as residents, right? It may not impact us directly, but we know someone who it does, good things and not so good things. So WestfordCAT being able to cover these things is a tremendous resource that you just can't get anywhere else, period. So sometimes I think that, oh yeah, it's another channels. I'm flipping through the channels remote, just and zip on by. Hey folks, take a listen. Take a moment. Just stop on that channel for a moment, right? The couple channels that we have. Stop on those channels for just see what we have, right? And keep in mind that you might be pleasantly surprised at the quality work and the quality programs that take place at WestfordCAT.
That's a good point. And I might just add, because I watch the meetings too in order to stay relevant and current in town. And school committee and select board are fascinating meetings almost every single time they meet. It's usually every other week. Schedule is online at westfordma.gov.
Right.
So Jack, thank you very much for doing this today.
Thank you, Joyce. This was a real pleasure. I'm glad to be able to do this, share some thoughts, and I'm very thankful to be on the board helping out here. I'm really excited about it.
And I can say, staff members, speaking for my fellow colleagues, we're very excited about this new board too. For WestfordCAT News, this is Joyce Crane. Have a great day.